Yeah, so I think it's the time for us to start the webinars. It's 10 a.m. CET and it's 5 p.m. my time over here in Singapore. Happy to see everyone. Happy to see there are some familiar names, there are some new names, but I'm so glad to have everyone with me today. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Kinestry webinar on integrating 3D technologies in the fashion industry, especially with the factory support. I am Giang, 3D head of Kinestry, an innovation 3D studio specializing in fashion industry, and I'm so thrilled to be your host today and we'll explore the exciting topic together. So you may know fashion industry is rapidly evolving. Technology plays a crucial role in driving innovation and efficiency. So today we will delve into how brands can effectively integrate 3D into their product development processes, with particular focus on how factories can support this whole transitions. Throughout the webinars, we will be joined by our esteemed guest speaker, Sylwia, 3D apparel specialist from Timberland. She might be familiar with some of you. She's so popular on LinkedIn. With over 15 years of industry experience, Sylwia has worked with renowned fashion giants like Armani, Max Mara, and now VF Corporations. Welcome, Sylwia. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so honored to have you here. To be honest, I'm so happy when you said yes to me. And I hope that all of your informative input of how 3D can be potential in this landscape will be meaningful to everyone. So Sylwia, do you want to share some few words with our audience before we start?
Yes, sure. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. As Yang said, I am Sylwia. I work now for Timberland in our DPC team. And my main role is to try to implement technology into our processes. I work mainly in product development. And I also believe that 3D and DPC in general, because today I would say DPC is not only 3D, but also AI, can be a great booster to make our garments better, faster, more precise, and to give us back a little bit of fun when we are working, because I think designers somehow lost this fun and this joy during garment creation, because especially in big fashion companies, they really don't have much time today to design to their creative process, because they have very strict deadlines. With technology, they could automate this, boring tasks, and start to be more creative and spend more time on what they really wanted to do when they studied fashion. And yeah, that's me. Probably some of you may know me from LinkedIn. If you don't, I am happy you joined me on LinkedIn, because I am trying to spread the voice somehow around DPC. And I am happy to have today this conversation with Giang and with Kinestry, also because Kinestry is our collaborator in Timberland, and we work together on some of our 3D assets. So it's great to share together this experience.
Thank you so much, Sylwia. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I saw your post on AI, and I think that maybe one day we can also regroup once again to talk about AI and how AI can play one part in our daily work, because AI is rapidly evolving every day, and there's a lot of things to talk about it, right? How people look at that, how people utilizing it is a whole big topic, and it's still somewhat mysterious, and I think we can leverage it and share more information. It might be very inspiring. So let's think, let's keep that in our pocket, and we can revisit it and find another day to talk about that also. Yeah, but before we begin today's topic, I would love to encourage everyone to actively participate with us. Later on at the second part of our webinars, we will have a Q&A sections. So please ask any questions you have by the end of this webinar. I do hope that everyone, when you leave the webinars, you will have a deeper understanding of how technologies, how 3Ds can revolutionize our fashion industries. So yeah, without any further ado, let's dive right into our discussions. So yeah, before we go into the details, let's take a moment to reflect on the profound impact of 3D technologies, what is having on, all of the influences is having on our fashion industry as a whole. So Sylwia, could you please share, some of your insights of how 3D is changing the traditional garment production processes?
It is changing a lot because thanks to 3D, we can streamline our processes, we can be faster, and we can be more precise because we can create our digital samples and check the fit on those digital samples. So at the end, we create much less physical ones. It is faster because a lot of big fashion companies are working with manufacturers that are far away. So having less physical samples means being faster because we don't have to wait for the samples production. We don't have to wait for shipping. They are often also stamped on custom. And sometimes it happens we wait 1 month for a t-shirt. This is
Oh
something
my.
that really can't happen anymore. And then 3D assets are ready for customers like from the day one, so we can share them with our customer, gain some feedback from our customers, and adjust the design in the way that it resonates better with them. And it is extremely important because I am not working in fast fashion company, so we are not making our collections very fast. We are not releasing new collection every single month. And that means that we are a little bit more far away from our customers, and having our calendar shorten thanks to technology, thanks to 3D, and being able to share these assets with our customers earlier to gain some insights, bring us much closer to the market. And this means less overproduction because we are able to produce something that sells better. And I think this is the main benefit of 3D, just being faster and being closer to our customers.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Just to add on to that, the other day I was working with a team doing virtual fittings on 3Ds, and I do realize that they are able to do a lot of trial and errors. So when they adjust the patterns, it's gonna be a lot of material waste if they want to try out different measurements. But in 3D, it's like less than 5 minutes without wasting anything. It means a lot to our environment, to be honest. So
yes, it does. It does.
yeah.
But
Anything else?
also overproduction, like being closer to customer, I believe it is probably the biggest sustainability impact that fashion 3D in fashion can have, because if you produce less but produce better, that means that you don't fill the landfills with unsold garments because you don't have unsold garments. You produce what your customer like in the quantity you are able to calculate, you are able to sell. So yes, in sample making, when you can avoid wasting the fabrics and creating the samples that later will be dropped, so at the end will finish in landfills, it's already a big thing. But don't have overproduced garment. It's a massive stuff. I made a presentation 2 weeks ago on the conference called PI Apparel, and I gained some statistics for this presentation, and I found that fashion companies are losing 500 billion of US dollars every single year due to overproduction.
Oh my God, that is
So due to
tremendous.
exactly, it's huge amount of money, and it translates in layoffs today in fashion industry.
Yeah.
Because we are producing more than we are able to sell, and we don't earn money. Without earning money, we can't maintain the quantity of employees we have. We can't maintain the quantity of contractors, manufacturers we have. We can't maintain the margins we need to be able to be profitable. So overproduction is really a huge problem, not only from environmental point of view, but
From
also from
business,
profitability. Yeah.
yeah, from business point of view, that makes sense. Where that's why, you know, we are here every day together with you to hope that brands will realize such a big, you know, change, that 3D and technology will be able to come and bring to them, not only in terms of operation, but in terms of their profit, the ROI. Even though it will not happen overnight, but it will happen if we really roll out everything properly. It will make a huge impact, a huge change. So, but I'm curious, to be honest, I'm still very curious. There must be something on the countryside that make brands and other, you know, other stakeholders in our fashion industry are so unwilling to adopt it. To be honest, my feeling is there are still some resistance. So have you ever, you know, observed any limitations or any drawbacks in 3D technologies nowadays?
Yes, we do. We do. You know, to be able to answer this question, you have to go a little bit back in time and understand how 3D was implemented into fashion industry. So basically, fashion companies started back in, let's say, 2015, 2017. They started to check on 3D to understand how they can implement it into their operations. And they got slowly with design team, with technical developers, with product developers, and go further and further and further. And then COVID happened. So it was like from yesterday to today, overnight. Okay, so from tomorrow, no more physical samples. You do everything in 3D. But people weren't prepared for that. And companies on their side couldn't do anything else because there was no way to produce physical samples. There was no way to, you know, to have this smooth transition. Like in 6 months, we start to do this. In another 6 months, we start to do this. There was no way to do that. So of course, people get stuck because they had deadlines. They had to use tools that sometimes were overcomplicating things instead of, you know, streamlining the process. They had to use the tools they were not able to use. So they missed their deadlines. They had a lot of struggles in their job. And once COVID finished and we could potentially get back to physical samples, we did. It was like, yes, finally, we can have again our physical samples.
Yes.
And this is what happened. And all of that happened for the main reason we forgot about the people in all that implementation. But unfortunately, at that time, we couldn't think about people because there was
It's
a
a
huge risk for the business. Like we couldn't give them the time. And what we are doing today in fashion companies is to step back for a while, look at what we have today, look at all problems and issues we have, and try to address them. Like we are having the second implementation of DPC today. And in this time, we are able to first ask people which are their problems, understand which problems we have to solve and how we have to solve them, and then go further with DPC. DPC is here and it will be here, and there is no way back. We just have to take more comfortable shoes to take dispatch. And this is the reason why, you know, today we are like getting back to physical, because we have to understand how to go further with digital. But as said, there is no way back. It's the only way we have to go, but just have to understand better how, because really today we have a lot of tools. A lot of them are solving real problems, but and others are, instead of solving, create more complexity. especially today,
Mm-hmm.
we won't talk about AI, but AI is a great example where you have a lot of shiny objects
Yes,
that really don't solve any problem, but people are
exactly.
spending money and time on them. And you know, it will be getting back from AI tool at
Yeah.
some point, because like, you know, sketch to render, in my opinion, it's not a
Uh-huh.
solution. There is another tools that are great and can help with 3D. Like, I believe 3D automation, some part of processes we are doing in 3D, once they will be automated with AI, it will be a massive change, because
Awesome.
all we know that 3D is expensive because it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
If you could think that you will be able to arrange your garments in one click, instead of spending hours on that for some assets,
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine how faster you can make your 3Ds and how cheaper it is for everyone. It's for contractors, it's for brands, it's for manufacturers,
Yes.
because you don't have to spend on some assets for hours just to, you know, understand which piece is going with what.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you. And I saw one post of you on LinkedIn. You was sharing about AI generated 3D renders, and it's not renderings. There is no 3D files behind that. And you know what? The funny story is a lot of partner reach out to Kinestry and ask me, Yang, can your teams create a 3D files just based on that AI generated photos? And unfortunately, there are some very unrealistic designs generated from AI, and we had to say no. And everyone seemed to to misunderstand that that is the limit of 3Ds, and 3D couldn't really do much. So I think it's really not the way. It's a misconceptions. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned it, where we didn't really have a proper preparations to have the implementation as the correct place to engage and prepare for not only the brand, but also the 3D team of the brand and the factories, how they can work together. Where is the integration points that they can, they can support and manage each other expectations slowly as the technology evolves. Because now it's technology is still evolving, so we still have some technical limitation at this moment only, but it doesn't mean in the future it will be the same, right? So we really need to help each other out. So let's since we're talking about that, I also want to bring up another very related issues, which is the challenges and the barriers. So when you worked with your 3D teams in Timberland, with designers, with other factories of VF, and even when you work with other external projects, did you encounter, or based on your experience, what are the key challenges of implementation of 3D implementations when brands and factories try to work with each others?
So we started to talk about that offline, but the biggest problem is that we have a lot of tools that are not connected to each other. There is no integration. So, or you do the garment in Claw, or you do the garment in VStitcher, or in Style 3D, or in any other 3D software, and you are not able to open it in another one. So that means that brand is choosing the software they prefer. But then manufacturer, in order to be 3D ready, need 5 different 3D software licenses and need the skills inside, because making garment in VStitcher and making garment in Claw 3D is a similar skill set, but not the same.
Exactly, agree.
It's not
Yes.
said that someone who is able to use Claw is automatically able to use any other 3D software. It
No.
will be easier to
Right.
them, but they still have to learn. So I believe that manufacturers have much bigger challenge than fashion brands. And I can tell you that today, a lot of big fashion brands are trying to get all together in order to talk with 3D software providers and ask them the one format. So once you create your garment in Claw, you will be able to open it also in Vestiture. So at that point, it really doesn't matter which software manufacturer choose. You choose the software you prefer and you feel more comfortable with. And I believe it can be a game changer for manufacturers.
Absolutely.
Because it can streamline the way of doing, and we really need it, because we can't pretend that manufacturer will invest hundreds of thousands of dollars just in 3D software because one brand is using one and another one is using other one. And then on other hand, we don't want monopoly of one software, because it is
Yes.
never a good thing. If you have only one 3D software working for the whole industry, you are kind of hostage of the software provider. Because if this software house is saying, I don't want to do it, or I will raise my prices and make them 10 times higher, you have to pay that in order to be able to maintain your DPC workflow. So we need different software, but we need software that are able to connect to each other. Like, for example, in 2D CAD, we have the XF file that you can export from every single 2D CAD software.
Yes.
And you can use it everywhere with some struggles, okay, but in general way, you are able to export your pattern and open it everywhere. We need the same in case of 3D garments. And this is probably the thing that will help a lot manufacturers to work in 3D.
This is very, very critical, and I cannot agree with you more. Kinestry work a lot with factories. To be honest, we work a lot in terms of qualities check, quality control, calibrations, and also training. And we realized that it's not just the softwares, which last year already, I didn't, I don't think it's good that I mentioned the name of the softwares, but last year one software is very popular one has increased their price for about, I think, 5% a year. And imagine how many licenses they need to buy for each team and each factories. And then it's not just the softwares, it's each brand will have their different VQS, visual quality standard, and how to achieve that quality standard with different softwares is another challenge on top. That is another layers. So it's very tough for the factories, to be honest. And I keep thinking of how it can be better for them to, acquire not just the skill, the general skill, but something that can be consistently connected. So yeah, I'm again, I'm very glad that you mentioned it. So okay, but that that format is the discussions, and it might happen in the futures. How about now? Now what can we do to help out? What can we do to improve the current collaborations between factories and the brands? Do you have any ideas in mind?
We have to be very clear with our standards. Like you said, virtual quality standards, it's a tough point, because every fashion brand has different virtual quality standards and they are relying on the software they are using. So sometimes it is not possible to achieve the same quality between different software. So I believe this is the first point. We have to standardize something in the industry, but this is not immediate. If we can talk about something we can do right now, it's a collaboration, and it's listening also the manufacturer struggles. Like it can be like, kind of collaboration where brand is the boss and manufacturer is doing what brand is looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, we pay for that. But if we will create a kind of collaboration between us, so listening them, their struggles, their problems, we can have better quality standards too. Because there is no one way to do things right.
Yes, exactly.
We need the output done in a certain way, but for me, honestly, it really doesn't matter if you move your mouse to the left or to the right. For me, it's the same. If the output is the right one, I like it. Then if we find together that to obtain some kind of output, it really takes a lot of time. And we have to evaluate if it matters that much. If it really makes sense to spend 5 hours to do one thing that probably won't be even visible in render, because sometimes things like that happened. So it's a matter of collaboration, but the real collaboration, not the collaboration boss and I pay you so you do
Yes.
what I want, but the collaboration, we discuss it, I listen you, you listen me, and we find together the right way to go further.
Yes, here is also something I want to add on right to your point, because I'm working right now with another brand, and they are a big brand, but they didn't really have the standard established. And that is something really surprised me, because when you want to engage other people, you really need to tell other people what is the right thing to do. But they didn't have that standards really built up yet, and they didn't really have all of those quality checkpoints. They also haven't really built up the training materials, which they supposed to do. I think there was one time I talked to one factories over here in Singapore, and they told me that their training was only about 4 to 6 weeks. I find that very tough. To be honest, it's very tough for a non-3D person to become a 3D specialist in a new softwares and know how to achieve a very high standard of a brand. So not only about the standard, we need to build a very clear and explicit set of standard. We also need to provide a proper training. We need to slowly, onboard the factories and provide, a sufficient amount of support, technical support. I mean, I'm not sure if you agree with me, but I think this is very crucial, to be honest, to enable factories to help us out.
Yeah, I believe too. The problem with fashion brands and factories are often that in the middle you have, for example, sourcing offices. So it's not a brand DPC team to talk directly with manufacturer, but there are people in the middle that can be sometimes even technical people, because brand can create a kind of digital sourcing office. And there are already things like this in the industry. The problem is that, for example, it's me to say to sourcing team something. Sourcing team have to say it to the digital sourcing team, and digital sourcing team is going to tell
Steps.
it to manager of manufacturer, and then the manager is going to tell it to their people. So it's a long chain that takes time, and then you will lose some information in the middle. There is no way you will lose information in the middle. So that means that if I am not able to do the training by myself directly to manufacturer, it's almost impossible that manufacturer will be able to obtain my virtual quality standards, because I have to answer their questions directly. Because sometimes, we created our virtual quality standards in Timberland, but we are working on them all the time, because
Evolving.
sometimes maybe for me it's something which is obvious, but when I am working with contractor or with manufacturer, then I realize it is not that obvious, and I have to explain that. So I have to add it to my quality standards. I have maybe to change something, because what we created is not enough clear. And you can boost your quality standards only when you start to collaborate with external people, because inside your team, you understand everything. Like we are doing it in this way. I don't have to ask my colleague how I have to do that, because we are doing it. But when I am working with contractors, with manufacturers, sometimes they ask me the things that for me are extremely simple, but it seems that they are not. And that's fair enough. because we are not working together on the same garment. So the direct connection between manufacturer and brands is essential.
It's very essential. So again, it's going back to your point where we need to listen to the factories. We cannot just simply, you know, it shouldn't be a one-way communication. It should be a two-way where we meet up with the factory teams, and it's gonna need a lot of effort on our end, I believe, because like for example, big brands like VF, I believe you have more than 30 factories to deal with, and you need to talk to each factories. Each of them will have different level of capabilities when it comes to 3D. Some of them are even brand new. You know, some teams are I'm you know, it's just my feeling that teams in Bangladesh or in India, they are a little bit more advanced in terms of 3Ds, but outside of that, we have teams in other places. They need a little bit more help. So different level of capabilities also need different strategies of engaging them and supporting them. I do believe that brands should invest more in that, because I know that this year it's a sad news to hear that, you know, DPC teams is being scaled down in many brands. Even though the big brands, they're also scaling down the 3D teams. It shouldn't be the way, to be honest. I think that we need a lot of 3D support in 3D teams of each brand to enable factory to be able to bring in a very tremendous amount of help in the futures, and it's gonna make a big change.
You know, I was talking with my fellows in different fashion brands, and a lot of them, and I think they are right at certain point, think that the first training, but the robust training, should be provided by software providers. And I tell you why. Because we are happy to help them, but we cannot provide the basic training.
Yes,
we can't,
yes.
because we have to work in the meantime.
Yes.
And we pay our software providers a lot of money for licenses, and we bring them new customers.
Yeah.
Because we are saying, okay, we are working with this manufacturer and we want them 3D ready, and that manufacturer have to pay the license in order to be able to help us. And it's not my business, it's the software provider that is making money on that.
Yeah.
They have to provide them with standard training, and they have to provide them not with online training, like, you know, you are watching videos and you have nobody that is able to help you with your struggles. They need one-to-one trainings with the teams, with manufacturers, to let them to be 3D ready. And this is something that really have to start to happen, because manufacturers are spending money on something to be able to work for us fashion brands, but they need a help, and software provider is the one that earns most on that.
Yes, yes.
So I think it's really fair that software provider is provide the training, the good training to the manufacturers. And once manufacturers have basics, we in fashion brands are happy to answer any concerns they have in order to, you know, obtain our virtual quality standards. But I really can't teach them stitching in 3D.
No,
because I just can't. I would maybe love to even, but I just can't, because this is not what I am paid for in my company.
Exactly. And even if so, I don't think the capacity or your capacity allows that.
Exactly.
You know, now in your Timberland teams, I know that you're also running not really a huge team. I am working with another client. They are a big brand, a big group of brands, and their teams only have less than 5 team members to support all their 3D team. I mean, to support all of the other brands. How can that be? It's so small. I mean, the team is so small for them to to handle everything. So I just find that yeah, different level of factory trainings can come from different kind of sources. So let's say software provider can give a very basic technical training, while and then after that, like, you know, external agency or studio like Kinestry, we are also providing a lot of trainings because we work with brands, we understand how to achieve certain requirements in their VQS. Because if you know the tools, but you only know, you know, the basic standards, or you are new to the tools, you might need someone there to tell you, okay, you're going to use this technique or use this features to achieve this kind of specific requirements. So yeah, Kinestry is also doing this kind of job, and we realize that this helps a lot in how the brands achieve that specific set of requirements from how the factories achieve that specific requirements. And then on top of that is the direct conversations, you know, the communication with the brands. So 3 layers of training will be able to enable the factories to perform to their best. And I believe that's the only way for us to work things out right now.
Yeah, I believe too. I believe too, because you are right. The DPC teams in fashion brands are pretty small today. They are because, as I told at the beginning, there is a kind of step back to look around and understand how we have to handle all that things. And this is happening also because fashion brands are aiming to have, for example, their designers or their technical developers using 3D, which is thing that already happens, but we basically need internal DPC team to be kind of support to those teams. That means that every time when we are starting to work with manufacturer or external contractor, it's an additional amount to work that often has lower priority, depends on the project, of course, but we just have to prioritize being such a small group of people and working 8 hours per day. We did just 40 hours to split between all projects we have. So in fact, having well-trained external collaborator is a good idea. And this is something that really can help with, you know, leveling up the manufacturers and let them to be ready to collaborate with the brands. And I believe that this collaboration can also give a huge added value to manufacturers, because for us, having less physical samples means not that much earning money, because samples are not that expensive, but earning the time. But it's the same for manufacturers. You don't have to stitch all that samples. You are much faster. You are able to send us 3D file and ask if it can work in this way, and have the answer in 2 to 3 days instead of 1 month. And you are able to make your samples better, make our collaborations easier, faster, and more profitable for all sides, because someone anyway pays for that sample. Someone had to switch them. Someone pays for shipping. Someone have to wait all that time when garment is shipped to the brand, and brand don't have fitting sessions every day, because we need to pay for our fitting model coming to our office, and we are doing fittings for all garments at the same time. That means that we won't be able to send you feedback immediately.
Yes.
Because we have another 100 garments to check, then we type our comments, and then we send you feedback. So it takes a lot of time. Being faster, it's probably the best profit, and for all stakeholders, not only for the brands, but also for manufacturers.
Yeah, time is money. It's not just the money saved on physical samples, it's the time.
It is.
Yeah, and then imagine one brand, how many styles per seasons. If we just look into one style, you think, okay, it's not a lot. But if we look into the whole volume of each seasons coming from just one brand, that is a huge save. So Yeah, it's
Yeah, it is for everyone. I mean, I understand that quantifying time in money sometimes can be difficult, but time is money, like you said. If you are able to earn 6 months on your development, that means that you earned a lot of money.
it's true. It's so true. It's very evident, to be honest. And oh, you just mentioned a point that I really want to explore a little bit further, which is measuring the success, measuring how much of time we save, how much of money we save, how much of resources that we save. Is there any way that we can measure that, or is really something, impossible?
So if you want to think about that, you need the real pilot project, because you can say, okay, I think I will save 6 months on the development process if I will do end-to-end DPC implementation. But then it is not like you can use the end-to-end DPC for everything, because there are certain kind of garments that, yes, you can make for visualization purposes in 3D, but you can't for fitting. For example, puffer jackets.
Yeah,
This is something that looks nice in 3D, but it doesn't have the real physical properties. So you need the sample for the puffer jacket to understand how it really look like. Then there are another kind of garments, like for example, t-shirts, shirts, sweatpants, but even the woven pants or shirts or hoodies that you can do directly in 3D, and they really show the real fit. So what we are aiming to do are the pilot projects. You take one category and you implement the end-to-end DPC in that category, and you know how much time you spent previous season on that, and you see how much time you did making everything in 3D. Then it will be, you will do something well, you will have some failures you can learn from, because the first time is never perfect. And I think
exactly.
very important is also to say that failure is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It is something that make us learn, because you are not able to do perfectly the things from the first attempt. And a lot of fashion companies, a lot of people in general, have a problem with talking about failures, but they are an important part of learning process.
Exactly. I
You
love your
have to fail.
said. Yeah.
So, and this is also the part of DPC implementation, and this is the part of understanding how we can implement it correctly and how we can save the time and money implementing it. Because at the beginning you will do everything by hand, so it will take a little bit more time, but the second time you will already know what you can automate, what you can make faster. You will already have your virtual quality standards, so you won't go around and understand how I can make this fabric work, or how I can adjust the hoodie, because you already have your method for hoodie adjustment. So maybe the first time you spent 3 hours just on stupid hoodie, but the second time you spent 10 minutes, because you know how to do that. But
Yes.
you have to fail to be able to learn. There is no other way, especially because, as you said, it's a lot of brands that still don't have any virtual quality standards. So
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
true.
create them.
Yeah, that's true. And then one more thing to add here, the biggest mistake that usually brands or any 3D practitioners usually make is they use the actual seasons to measure. They don't really measure on a pilot where they can, customize, or where they can choose a set of samples of that categories to focus on. They try it out on the actual seasons. And when it comes to actual season, it's a mixture of a lot of different type of garment, and there's a lot of problem, happenings along the ways. The digital materials are not ready. Everyone's rushing. They have deadline to meet. They have milestone to meet. The GTM meetings, the live review meetings are waiting for them. So everyone rushing, and it doesn't work. So they don't really have a proper workflow in place. which usually will come after a proper pilot and proper analysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to also think that it's extremely risky to implement such a disruptive technology
on actual
and
seasons.
disruptive, exactly, on actual seasons. It will cost more to have a pilot, because of course you are developing something that you somehow don't need, because it's something on top of your seasonal development. But on the other hand, you don't have any risk, so you can really disrupt your process, because you can't try to think to put the jet engine on top of horse and carriage and pretend it flies. You need an airplane. And to be able to create an airplane, you need to establish the new process. You can't put 3D just here and there and there and there on the process you already have, because it won't ever work, and it won't ever, shorten your calendar. You need the pilot project with certain category, with I don't know, the small collection, the capsule collection, something additional on top of your seasonal developments. And with this one, you can play. You can do whatever you want, because if it will fail, okay, nothing happens. We spent time on that, but we also gain some learnings. And once we are ready with our pilot, we can really think to implement it into actual collection, category by category, season by season, type of garments by type of garments, and process by process. But without the pilot, you are really risking your collection outcome, and it's huge. And then if it happens, your strategic team, your strategic leadership will say no DPC anymore, because we lose millions trying to implement the DPC, and we failed, and we were not able to deliver the collection on time. And this is huge. This is DPC end in fashion brands.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be happening, we shouldn't let that happen. Since we only have about more than 10 minutes left, so we can continue to discuss while I open up the floor for all of our attendees to start to ask questions. And so everyone, please feel free to type in your questions into the Q&A chat box, and me and Sylwia will check it out and utilize the last 10 minutes of our discussion to answer any of your concerns as we continue talking. So feel free to share with us any of your queries or your concern, right? I see something coming up very fast. I think everyone's already with their questions in mind. So yeah. So the very first question is, can factory reuse 3D proto files for 3D SMS? What do you think, Sylwia?
So what I believe is the most important thing is not to make 3D assets for every stage, like from scratch, because it doesn't make sense. If we had 3D proto file and there were some changes made, we just do like we do in real life. We adjust this garment in 3D and we make from that 3D SMS. Then in proto, probably you don't need some finishing, like let's say the proper 3D trims, or some details that you probably will need in SMS. But I believe that the real added value is to have one 3D assets which is moving during the whole process. And yes, so the answer is yes, factories should reuse 3D proto files for 3D SMS, just adjusting them according to tech pack.
Yeah, so I think maybe during the fittings process, the prototype, the 3D proto is something like partially complete. So there are details like logo graphics, some small trims can be skipped. There are certain construction and areas which is not affecting the overall fit can be skipped, where we will be able to detail it up in 3D SMS. Is it what you're trying to say, Sylwia?
No, I just missed you for a second, but I have you again.
Yeah, okay. All right. So I think yes, we should definitely use the 3D prototypes. And as the tech pack change, as more details is added, we should slowly develop it into a 3D SMS instead of wasting time to rebuild everything. When it comes to SMS, it doesn't make sense. All right, second question. How can we guarantee the consistent quality from factories in every season? Oh my God, there's a headache.
Virtual quality standards. If you have your virtual quality standards in place, you know how garments have to be done, how renders, if required, have to be done. You have your all standards set up. It's like with the normal garment creation, you know how double needle stitch have to look like, and this is the same with 3D.
Yeah, and one more point I would love to add here is your visual quality standard should really be visual, because some quality standard, they just simply describe what they want. It's not visual at all. I think one thing that Timberland is also promoting is making their reference a very visuals. I hope that you're okay that I'm sharing this, but I think it's a very good practices that everyone should apply, where we make all of our reference. We should include the screenshots. We should include all of the good examples in our VQS, so that each factory,
and also the bad ones, and also the bad ones saying like, this is not how we want it. This is how we want it.
Yes, because image say much more than text. So please be visual when you want to convey the standards to the factories. It helps them a lot. Yeah, who should be in charge of that quality control? It's a difficult question.
It's a difficult question, yes and not, because at the end, who is in charge of quality control of the garments? The first quality controls is in factory, then they are sourcing offices that are checking the quality. Sometimes there are external companies that are in charge of quality check. So I believe it should work exactly in the same way in digital world. The first one is in the factory, where they have probably a manager, someone who is in charge of quality control and helping 3D artists to do always well. And it has to be quality control according to the quality standards provided by the brand. And then, for example, in Timberland, it works like this. We have contractors and we are checking the quality and leaving the comments. Somehow you have to set it up. So as said, I believe it have to be somehow similar to what we have with physical samples today.
Yeah, I like in physical life, I saw, you know, big company like Kima, they doing QC for physical samples and physical product, while Kinestry is also having a QC team doing digital quality control. I think at this very beginning stage, it's hard for the factories to do the QC themselves, because they themselves also learning and exploring the standard. So maybe an external parties can play a better role here. But as we, you know, as Kinestry is working closely with factory, we're also trying to enable the factory to do that QC within their own teams, because at the end of the day, you should be producing the proper work right when you're producing it. You don't want to do something wrong and then after that you come and check it and fix it. It's wasting our time. It's not really an optimized process. So yeah, that's what Kinestry is also doing, and I think it's somewhat answering to that questions. Each company, each factories will have different answers to this, but yeah, those the option that Sylwia mentioned earlier might be something you should consider.
Yes, okay. Yes, I believe that that you are right. This is what I told also. There are external agencies that are helping with quality control, so that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Oh my God, we have a lot of questions. I think it might not be enough time for us to answer all of the questions, so let me just pick some of them. And Sylwia, do you want to pick any questions that coming up and you think it's gonna be great for us to share the answer?
So I would say we can answer some of the questions also offline. I am happy you contact me directly on LinkedIn. I am always on LinkedIn, so I will be happy to answer the questions. I would try to briefly answer something. So, for example, should business employ a specialist to introduce and implement DPC within the company, starting from scratch? I believe today it can make sense. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, I would say no, because there were no people that really know how to do DPC, because it was just the beginning.
It's a new thing.
While today there are already people that were able to implement it in certain brands and would probably be able to help the brand to implement it from scratch. What I would say is not to go to the specialists, to the people that never worked in DPC. There are some huge consulting companies, I don't want to say names, but they are saying, okay, we can do also DPC for you because we are already doing 100 different things. Check if they have their consultants that are actually making 3D. Because if they don't, it will be like, okay, we take money from this service provider, from this service provider, and from this tool provider, and these are tools that we will give you, no matter if they solve the problem or not.
Yes, it's not really practical. It's not really applicable. I totally agree with you.
You have to check who you took to your company in, and you have to take someone who really worked in DPC before. I see, Priscilla, how to implement a 3D pattern into a tech pack. Does it exist already? Yes, it does, because I think all 3D software are able to export today a tech pack. They are renders of the garments, but they are renders with measurements. They are renders with all informations that you may need. Then there is a lot of collaboration tools where, like, for example, a closet or style zone, which are provided directly by 3D software, and you can send the link to your garment to your client, and client can leave you the comments directly on 3D garments. So yes, this technology already exists, and there is a lot of different ways to do that, but the simplest way are exporting tech pack directly from your 3D software or using collaboration tool provided by 3D software.
All right, I think we can answer one more last questions before we close the discussion. So yeah, it's your choice. Which one do you want to answer? So we have quite a lot.
Choose one by yourself.
Okay, all right. So okay, should brands involve factories to make 3D proto after the final design review or after tech back? Is it a clear question? Should
to make 3D proto after final design? So I believe the biggest advantage is to make 3D from the day one. So from the design stage and involve the factory there. But it happens also that sometimes you are not able to have it earlier, so you use the tech pack provided by your technical designers and the pattern provided by the factory. I honestly don't believe this is the best solution, but this is something that happens quite often right now, and I think it's a the kind of stage in the middle. It will change because it's not so profitable for neither of parts, because the factory already created physical sample and the brand already has physical sample. So which is the point to make the digital one? But it will happen till we won't be able to move fully digitally.
I see. Yeah, that is actually there's a great answer to these questions, because I also don't think that that we have any other options. We really need to, it's better to engage at the early stage. We might see some overlapping, we might see some double work, but as we slowly replacing physical with digitals, you will see more benefit to be realized, right? All
Exactly.
right.
We need end-to-end implementation to be able to see the real benefits.
Yeah.
And I wanted to briefly answer also the last question we
Yeah,
have.
please.
How do we get the Dupir staff members on board? People are scared to lose their job. Remember one thing, technology are tools. They can't replace people. They really can't, and neither artificial intelligence will be able to replace people, because we need to be on top of that. In big fashion companies today, we already started to have some, regulations around AI. And the most important one is that AI can't take strategic decisions. It have to be people to take decisions. And the best way to get people on board is to ask them what they really want and provide them with solutions. In this way, they really go for this, because they will see the real value of that. They are maybe today doing something that takes a lot of time or takes a lot of effort, and with technology they will be able to make it better and faster. And this is the way how you take people on board. There is no other one.
Yeah, and I think we also should encourage, our staff to control rules and use and leverage the technology instead of being scared of those, right? Because we have the control as we know it better and we learn it and we open up to it and we understand it more, we'll get more control over it. So it's a very simple thing here. Don't be scared. Technology is not there to control
Exactly.
us.
Exactly. Don't be scared, because technology is here to help us to do
Yeah.
stuff better instead of losing our jobs. I mean, I am not afraid at all about losing my job, and I am super curious how fashion technology will look like in next 10 years. It was a question there also about that. So I believe it will be like a lot of automation through AI in DPC in the future. And I believe that this is a great thing, because then we will really see the big benefits of 3D, because today it takes a lot of time still. In the future, it will be much faster. So we will be able to do it much faster, much better, and much more, but we will still need people to do that. So don't worry about this.
Yeah, and we will evolve also together with technologies. So
Exactly.
we won't stop ourselves. So let's stay open about that. And unfortunately, we have already reached the end of our allotted
Yes.
time for questions. But I'm so happy that we managed to answer a few, more majorities of our questions. I'm so sorry that we skipped some, but please reach out to us, if you have any further inquiries or any questions that we didn't really have a chance to answer you and would like to continue the conversations. Kinestry and Sylwia, I believe that all of us are very open to continue the conversations on either LinkedIn or on our website. Feel free to reach out to us.
Yes, I am completely open to answer any questions. So feel free to reach me and to reach Giang. And thank you very much for your time and for a lot of questions, because that means that the topic was really interesting to you.
Yes.
So happy to see this kind of interest around DPC.
I'm so happy to be honest. I'm somewhat surprised that our topic, our discussions is really cared by other people's by people's around us in our industry, and that's a very good side. So once again, thanks everyone for joining us today. This insightful discussions, we extended our heartfelt gratitude to you also, Sylwia, for your invaluable contributions, for all of your activities, not only in webinars and conferences and on LinkedIn. We appreciate your support, your effort a lot, and making other people realizing the benefit and how they know how, and helping them to know how they can integrate 3Ds. So Sylwia, sincerely appreciate your time and insights. And we wish you all of the continued success in your projects and in your, all of the future plans. To all of our participants, thanks again for your engagement and enthusiasm. Remember, our journey to digital transformation is ongoing. We're here to support you in every single step of your way. So if you have any further questions or you would like to explore how, how we can help you, how we can assist you in your digital journeys, reach out to us. Thanks once again. Siwa, do you have any last word that you would love to share with our audience before we close?
Just wanted to say thank you for your participation, and if you want to ask me anything else, I am happy to answer, and I am happy to be here today with Kinestry because they are helping us with our digital journey, and I believe if you need some help, they may be a good people to go, because as I said before, you really need someone who is already working in DPC. Otherwise, you won't be able to implement anything if you are getting external assistants that have no knowledge about the 3D.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Sylwia, and I'm so happy to hear that. So yeah, we had a very great discussions. We are on the same page. We're heading to the same visions. So let's keep in touch, everyone, and take care. We'll see you again soon in maybe another webinar. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Sylwia.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.